Welcome to Leadership Unlocked, where we uncover the pivotal stories that shape extraordinary leaders. I'm Dusty Holcomb, and on this show, we don't just talk about leadership, we decode it. In every episode, we sit down with change makers who've walked through the fire, challenged the status quo, and emerged with wisdom worth sharing. These aren't just lessons, they're lived experiences, real moments that reveal the mindset, the resilience, and the clarity behind lasting impact. Today, you're going to hear one of those stories. Jason VanDevere was supposed to take over his family's car business as the fourth generation leader. Instead, he bet on a crazy dream, selling paper planners online. That leap turned into a best-selling brand, a book called Dream Driven, thousands of people impacted, a real estate portfolio, and a life on his own terms. If you've ever wondered whether your wild idea was worth chasing, Jason's story is just the reminder you've been waiting for. Let's get into it. This is Leadership Unlocked. Okay, so I have to ask, just right out of the gate, what happened? Were you sitting there with, your 17th different planner going, well, this sucks and I could do this part better? And how did you decide I'm going to create my own planner and I'm going to make this thing a business where tens of thousands of people can learn from this better system? I just think there's a better way. How did that start?
Yeah. So, kind of like you said, I had tried tons of different planners, and what was really fueling it for me is I come from a family business. So my dad is a car dealer. If you ever come to Akron, Ohio, you'll see our name, VanDevere, all over. VanDevere, Cadillac, VanDevere, Kia, they've got a bunch of dealerships. So I had to learn every department because originally I was going to go into the car business. So I needed to get really good at okay, I'm going to start in this new department. I have to learn it really quickly. What are the goals? What are the activities I need to do every day? And I was reading all these books to help me. And it was like they were all giving me good strategies. And I just wanted a planner that put it all together in one thing. So I could keep track of my goals, the habits I needed to be doing every day. I just wanted it all in one place. And I felt like I couldn't find a planner that lived up to, here's all these same things these books are telling me to do again and again and again. Why aren't I finding a planner that put it all together? Later, as I eventually decided to leave our family business, it was just a passion of mine on my heart. It seemed like a crazy idea. There was more than enough planners already out in the market. Everyone was launching apps, not planners. Now it's kind of like a fun thing to launch a planner. But back then, it was just nope, Jason, that's a dumb idea. But I went out and did it. And it just came from a passion of mine.
All right. So how long have you been doing this? Let me just ask that. How long has Goal Crazy Planner been out there for public consumption?
Yeah, about 6 years. So 2019, I launched.
Wow. Yeah. I just found it last year and actually just bought 30 of them for a group that we run to make sure we give these away. Because I love exactly what you just said. It's the best elements from all these different disparate sources of expertise. Thanks for doing that, man. Thanks for following your dream.
Hey, it's helpful for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to eat your own dog food, right?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, you had it made though, right? You had a family business. Your name's in the lights. You've got a family name. You're going through the process of learning everything. Why isn't it Jason that I'm talking to right now about a new Cadillac?
I know. Yeah, I ask myself that a lot. It's my friends were like, dude, you got the golden ticket. You just have to smile and you're going to be a car dealer. And I would be fourth generation in the family business. The name is very recognized and respected in our area. Now it's my dad and my uncle are partners, and my uncle has sons who are planning on going into the business. So I won't be killing off the family legacy. I wrestled with that a lot because I knew I wanted to be a business owner. And it's I was on the path towards business ownership. It was a large organization. It just seemed why can't I get past this? Cars don't excite me. Helping somebody buy a car doesn't excite me. But I think I always wanted this challenge of starting something of my own. It's when people would ask me what I was doing for a living, even though it was a respectable thing I was doing for my family, it was I was embarrassed to tell them because I'd always dreamed of being an entrepreneur. And then I felt like I was just telling people, look, I took the easy route instead of pursuing what I wanted to do with my life. And nobody else would know that's what else was going inside of me. It's yeah, your last name is VanDevere. It was assumed since the day you were born you were going to be a car dealer. It was a rejection to myself.
So I have to ask then, what does excite you? What was that that internal spark that you listened to, that calling that did excite you, that ignited that passion for you and let you blaze your own trail. Because let's face it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Entrepreneurship's not easy. Like, it's all the sexy thing, and you go to LinkedIn, entrepreneurship is everything. But for those who actually do it, it's really, really hard. And there's a lot of, loneliness and sleepless nights and all the other things. So you have to have that internal spark. Mm-hmm. What's yours?
I think it was complete control of my time or what I could do. The dealership did provide a lot of unique freedoms, but I still don't have complete control of what I was doing until eventually I took over the family business. I'd have more, but it was I wanted control of what I was doing. And I feel like I had things I wanted to do with my life that the dealership wasn't going to align with. One of the things, so I've just had a weird upbringing here, and I realize that, but my dad, I haven't met with a life coach since I was like 16 years old. My dad's had different coaches, so he had me start meeting with this individual, and I always thought what he was doing was so cool. And it like sparked something in me because I saw so many of my other friends who they had potential, but they kind of had the mindset of like, well, my family doesn't have a giant business, so therefore I won't be successful. And it's like, no. Like that's not what we were ever told. It's you have the same opportunity that I do. So I feel like in a way I was curious about helping other people realize that they could do something with their life. But I think there was also a drive I wanted to prove something to other people. Like, you didn't need to be lucky and have the dad who's a car dealer to be successful. It's like, look, you just need the courage or the craziness to go after your dreams, and that's what's gonna help you become successful.
As you took that leap and as you embarked upon your journey, your vision, your mission, if you look back now, when was that seed planted? Like, I love that you had a life coach at 16, right? Mm-hmm. But can you look back now and go, there was an inflection point of time where you knew that your path was going to diverge? Was it something that happened in a moment, or was it something that built inside you over a longer period of time?
I mean, when I started working at the dealership out of college, I was like all in, drinking, reading the books, going to the conferences. Like I really thought that was my thing. I think what helped me realize it, one, there was like something inside of me that wasn't right, but I started getting rental properties. That was another thing that really struck my curiosity. But I realized if I met somebody who had rental properties, I could talk to them about it forever. I just found it the most interesting thing in the world. When if I met somebody else working in the car business, even if it was another like car dealer's son who was in the same path I was, I mean, I knew how to talk about the business. I grew up with it and I was educated in the space, but it didn't spark a curiosity of mine. It was like I was forcing this conversation. And I just felt like that kind of gave me clarity of like one thing just lit a fire inside of me and the other just felt like a job. And it was like, wow, what if I could be doing that all the time?
Every experience we have in life, no, I firmly believe this, and it may not be something you share or others don't, but I believe every experience that we have in life can work for us. We just have to choose to let it work for us. We have to choose to harness what it is, even the bad things, right? Even the things that have that label. As you think about it now and you look back at even if it was good, right? In your car dealership, but it didn't light that spark, it didn't fire you up. What lessons did you learn, or what leadership systems or frameworks did you pick up while you were working in that business that you now look back and go, wow, that was really important. I am so glad I had this opportunity, and it has given me a gift that I didn't even realize at the time.
I mean, sales, great skill to have, being comfortable on the phone. I had to work in our call center forever where it's like you're making 30 calls an hour or something, keeping track of your numbers. But like getting very comfortable on the phone, growing up in the business and just seeing how my dad ran the business, getting it behind the scenes on the numbers was just really impactful. How do you lead people? Eventually I was a manager of, 18 people or something. And those are really good skills to have. I think another thing that I reflect back on a lot is my dad regularly meets with other car dealers. So 3 times a year, he gets together with this group of 20 dealers. It's like a little mastermind of these dealers, and they all open up their books and everybody sees like their numbers on their different departments, their different stores. But even outside of that, he'll find other car dealers who are doing well. Most of the time they're from that group or a recommendation, and he'll go visit their dealership. He'll come visit theirs. But it's just this constant learning. And it's like, look, you don't have to be a genius. Go find somebody who's already figured it out and you just ask them how they did it. And I feel like I'm constantly on this quest for like, where's my quote unquote 20 group? Unfortunately, there's not enough planner business owners to have something like that, but it's still like, how can I connect with other entrepreneurs who I can learn from? Because I definitely don't know it all.
It's so fascinating. I've had the privilege of being in a forum type of experience or a group type of experience for well over 20 years now in one format or another, either through Vistage or through YPO or et cetera. And there's so much power in getting outside of our own heads. Even when you run the business, maybe especially when you're the person who is running the business, like you just need someone else who will call you on your BS or just expose you to different types of thinking. So I love that your dad does that and has passed that thirst on to you. Sounds like your dad's been a pretty influential factor from a leadership perspective in your life.
Absolutely. And maybe that's like my dad, if you're at one of our dealerships, you'll know if he's there or not because he's just loud, but he's excited. He thrives in his business. I mean, he works normal hours when he's there. It's not like he's obsessed with his work and doesn't have a life outside of it. But when he's there, it's like, it's just, he's himself. And it's like, I knew I was never going to have that. Like the car dealership was never going to be an extension of me like it is for him. But it still inspired me because it's like, that's what I want. I want something where I'm all in, which just brings the best out of me, where I can invest into other people. And it would have been very forced if I tried to find that at the dealership.
Knowing you just a little bit, and one of the things I was so impressed with you is not only you're not just slinging planners, but you actually help people learn how to use them. And that's, how I first met you a year and a half or so ago, via Zoom. And like, oh, okay. So there's a name behind the product, but there's also a great deal of learning and a desire to teach and coach. And I love that. Knowing you have probably shared this with your dad before, but in case you haven't, what are a couple of lessons that you've taken from your dad's leadership that either you have outwardly expressed your appreciation for, or but even better, if you haven't, and you wanted to convey to him how much that lesson has meant to you? What would a couple of those leadership lessons be?
Big ones were he encouraged us to dream at a young age. And like we would set goals around the dinner table. We still, as a family, I'm one of 6 kids, and now their spouses and grandkids. We set goals as a family once a year on our family vacation. We go around, share what we accomplished last year, our goals for the next year, our dreams for life. So that's been really like a powerful thing. My dad, he's very humble at the dealership. Like he would never talk, if he's talking to somebody who washes the cars, he doesn't come off like I'm your boss. I feel like as a kid, I didn't really even realize that like, oh, it meant something special. I was Jerry's son. His name is Jerry. It was just like, oh, he's another employee here just like anybody else. I feel like it wasn't until later you're like, oh no, this is kind of unique. It's our name. But I think that the humility, not ever thinking you're better than others. He does a really good job of encouraging others by complimenting them. I think has been a really good strength of his. Like he's got the relationship there to have the tough conversations when they need it. They have something to build on, but he encourages people. You want to do your best because you know he's going to recognize it and get all excited how he does when he's at the dealership. So it brings the best out.
Your dad, again, sounds like a pretty amazing guy. Yes. And there's a lot of ways where people try to force on their kids their dreams, their aspirations. And I love that your dad was not only invoking within you your right to dream big, but like investing into it. Like you had a coach, you had opportunities to expand your thinking. And it would have been so easy for him to say, well, no, you're the 4th generation, you're going to be in this business. And I imagine that he was actually standing behind you going, hey, go chase your dreams.
He did. He's been incredibly supportive. It seemed like just no one in my family had ever changed that path before. I feel like it caught, I think he could tell when I was getting rental properties, he knew I was curious about other things. I think he could tell I was interested in starting a business, but I don't think he actually expected me to ever do it. The car dealership was it's a really unique type of business and opportunity to be able to own. It definitely caught him by surprise. I was terrified of having that conversation with him, but looking back, I shouldn't have been because he's been incredibly supportive, but I was very nervous, even though I just didn't know which way it would go because it seemed ridiculous. Why, Jason VanDevere, why would I leave the dealership? We have very similar personality types, So it's kind of like, why wouldn't I like it? It seemed like we're the same. You should just like it like I do.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, like, that conversation terrified you. I had just written down in my notes, ask him about the conversation. How did that go? Like, what was your process of preparing for it? And then, like, how long into that conversation did you realize that this was going to be okay?
I mean, he never tried to argue with me that I couldn't leave, but it was just, he was receptive to it. He just seemed surprised. I don't know if he really knew what to say. And I was sitting on the other end of the table, like, I want to leave the dealership. I want to make this planner. I don't know what it's going to be called. I don't know what the design is going to be made. I have no clue how to sell online. I know nothing about importing products from China. Like, it was like, I have no plan, and I'm going to turn down something great to go do something absolutely ridiculous. So I feel like he heard me out, seemed like a surprise. But as I eventually did it, and he saw, like, no, I'm going all in on this, he 100% supported me. But I was afraid, like, even leaving the dealership, other than my direct managers, I tried to tell as few people as possible, because it was, people wouldn't have thought, like, it seemed to align with my strengths, the sales, the marketing, the interpersonal relationships. I feel like some of the people that I told almost got mad at me, like you don't deserve this opportunity, sort of thing. And it was like, it just wasn't what I needed in my head. So I kind of tried to sneak out. But since then, now going back, completely different situation, it didn't seem expected.
That's interesting. So of the things that you had to navigate, like sourcing from China, marketing, online sales, like all those things, which was the easiest for you and which turned out to be like, okay, there's some learning curve here. I had to really dig in to figure this out?
Probably marketing was really hard, figuring out how to market and still make money. Took me a long time to do that. But I think the biggest struggle was, you have this freedom as an entrepreneur, which is great. But I thought I had a very high level of discipline, but once I had that much freedom, I didn't. It was like, I would stay up all night working on things. There was no balance. There was no structure to my life. It seemed like I was working extra hard by working all the time, saying no to anything else, letting myself get unhealthy to work on this business, when really I was just forming a bunch of bad habits that I then needed to unwind, and they weren't helping me progress forward. It just seemed like, I'm so excited. I need to be working ridiculous amounts, even if I am doing bad, like unproductive things. It was just work.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, and I think that's an entrepreneur's trap. At least a number of entrepreneurs I've talked with over the years, and others, like, and felt guilty for falling into the same trap myself. It's like, when you're passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work. So you can put in all these hours, and then you feel like it's a rite of passage, or it's a badge of honor you have to wear. And then you find yourself, at least for me, like, wait a minute, the thing that I said I wanted, I'm not doing it. I'm not being congruent with what I believe. But I think it's a trap that so many folks do fall into. How did you break free of it?
Learning to use my own planner the right way. I mean, my planner helps you, like, set goals and manage your time, but learning the skill sets of time blocking. I still set my day, or plan my whole day out. I plan my week out in advance, but I then rewrite tonight I'll write out tomorrow's day in advance. I'll write it out, and then I'll set alarms for everything. So we have this pointing at 2:00. I had an alarm that went off at 1:50 saying, switch gears, focus on Dusty. But that was a habit that I formed, I don't know, like 5 years ago now, where I planned my whole day out with alarms. And then it was like, by the time I got up, I can just go from there. Like, when me and my wife were dating, I would have an alarm set for when she had to leave. Because it's like, look, I need to get to bed on time. You need to get to bed on time. It's time for you to leave. Now, she didn't like that. She respected the fact that, like, I had become very disciplined at that point. But maybe it was like I had gone so far one way, I overcorrected with these alarms. But it's forced me to make time blocks and set alarms.
It's amazing how, like, if we don't do that, like, I completely appreciate that that's what you needed to do and what you learned. If you don't do that, the time's going to pass anyway. But the problem is that we don't intentionally choose how to spend our time. And, like, that's the only non-renewable resource or asset that we have. We can make more money. We can, like, you can't make more time. And, like, I know that I use the process like you do. I decode at the end of the day, plan the next day, outline what's important. Is it perfect? No, but you strive for a process. And then, don't let, something comes up. If I get a phone call or something goes weird, so be it. Like those things happen, but I have to have a plan. Plan your work your plan.
I think probably now, as I've gone a little older in life, one of the big things that's helped me structure my life is my family, my wife and my kids. I could say like, I would not be nearly where I am in my career without them. I think some people might have this view like your kids are going to be battling against your success. And that just hasn't been my take. It's like, I have an alarm that goes off that I need to be done working at 4:45 p.m. There's no wiggle room on that with my wife. So because of that, I need to be extra productive with my time. I need to learn the ability to say no to things, right? People say like the level of your yes is determined by the level of your no. It's like, I need to be really good at saying no to things so that I can be highly productive with that. So that by the time I'm going to go focus with my kids, it's like, I'm done for the day. And if I didn't have that, I probably would have fallen back to like, I'm going to work all the time and I'm not going to be cautious about, am I working on a high payoff activity right now? I'll just be working and I'll be stuck. And I mean, who knows what would have happened, but my kids and my wife have directly helped me become just a more whole person.
That's amazing.
That helped my business.
Yeah, it's amazing how the balance does. And, I have to guard against those traps myself. And I will personally position it through the lens of, but I'm having fun and I'm loving it. But if you make one thing the most important thing and everything else suffers. So it's certainly a journey. Okay, so you've built this business, you've done real estate, you do the Goal Crazy Planner. What else has been on your mind? Like, I'm just fascinated, like when your dad said, dream big, and your family, right? It's the entire discipline around planning your goals and, sharing those goals on the family vacation. What else has been on your mind? Like, because it doesn't strike me that you're just going to, be a one-trick pony and just have a planner. Like, what else have you been working on?
So it's interesting. It's like when I launched that planner, I had no clue what was going to be on the other side. And like when I first launched it, I didn't want my name or face attached to it anywhere. One, I feel like I look like I'm super young. So it was like, people are not going to want to buy the planner if they see me. I don't know if that's as big of an obstacle as I think it is. People would track me down and be like, hey, I'm using your planner. They wanted to talk to me. They wanted help. So eventually I started hosting these workshops, which then turned into like group coaching programs and then courses and then one-on-one coaching with people. Started a podcast. Most recently, I have a book that's going to be coming out, or probably by the time this airs, it'll be out, called Dream Driven, and help somebody figure out what type of business they want to start and how to start it. But for me, it was just this routine of like continuing to dream. And once you had one thing accomplished, the next thing just kept presenting itself. It's a beautiful process. So that life coach I meet with, he always draws this, or not always, but he's drawn this for me a few times. It was kind of this like mountain range, kind of like, stocks. They'll go up, they come down a little bit, go up higher. And he'll draw a little stick figure at the bottom and be like, when you're first starting, all you see is this first peak of a mountain. You can't see anything else. But once you get to the top of that mountain, you realize there's a second mountain behind it, and it's even bigger. But you have to go down a little bit, and then you can climb back up and get it. And once you get to that top mountain, you realize there's a bigger mountain behind it. And I feel like that's just been so true for my life. It's like, I didn't realize what was on the other side of launching a planner, but then the next thing presented itself. But I think the dreaming is such an important part. Sorry, this is going to be a long answer, but
I love it. Go for it.
The dreaming is important because once I launched the planner, there were so many opportunities that presented itself. And then it's kind of like, well, which am I going to do? Maybe for it, I think it was the Packard guy said, most companies fail of indigestion, not starvation. It's like there's too much they're trying to do. But I feel like for me, it's those dreams that align me with like, okay, out of this catalog of different options, what am I going to do? Right? I'm building a business. I want it to be the business that I want. So I could keep aligning. What's the next thing that's presenting itself that aligns with the dream business I want to have?
The Packard quote, it resonates so well. And, I think of Warren Buffett, who is famous for, telling his pilot, whose name escapes me, but the story about, hey, make the list of the 20 things you want to accomplish in your life, and then pick the top 3, and everything else is on your no list. Like you only focus on the most important 3. What is your process for distillation? Like, how do you capture all these dreams and not get distracted by them and then pick the right next one? Like, what is the process that you use? And maybe you're going to get into that in the book. My copy just showed up on the door yesterday and I can't wait to dig into it. But what's your process of distillation for your dreams?
So starts with your dreams. Now for me, dreams are different from goals. Dreams are things I may or may not actually do. I'm just letting my heart speak to me about like, what do you want to do with your life? They don't have to be realistic, but after I have those dreams, I can set my long-term goals. I think a big part for me is once a year, I choose I call it a breakthrough goal, which will be a goal that's so big that right now I can't achieve it. Like this is far outside of my reach. The only way I'm going to ever achieve that is if I force myself to improve. It's kind of like you've got the Tony Robbins quote, it's not about the goal, it's about growing to become the person who can achieve the goal. It's like, okay, this goal is going to force me to get better at sales. It's going to force me to get better at marketing. But if I can already accomplish it now, it's not a goal. It's a to-do list item, right? This should force something better to come out. And then the rest of the year, it's keeping myself aligned with that. In my planner, each quarter, you identify, I call it your most impactful goal. To identify that, maybe you've read the book, The One Thing, great book. And there's that question in there. I might not get it exactly right, but it's something like, what's the one thing that by doing, everything else will be easier or irrelevant? And I feel like to figure that out once a quarter, this is the one thing I'm going to focus on. And I do a lot more than just one thing in a quarter, but I have to have a priority because I need some sort of compass that gives me permission in a way to say no to things. And it goes to my dream, big goal that attaches to it, and then my most impactful thing for the quarter. Hopefully people can follow along there.
Yeah,
that's you.
I'm sure they can. I love it. What's your breakthrough goal that you're working on right now?
Writing this book, having it get published. So that one went a little over a year. It's going to be about a year and a half of focusing full time on that. And I mean, I said no to everything. I stopped all my planner ads. I sold my podcast, sold my rental properties. I stopped coaching with all of my clients. I have a group coaching program that I stopped letting people in. Now, I don't know if that was the right approach, but it was like, look, if I'm going to do this, I'm going all in on this. And I mean, I've had a record completely low year for Goal Crazy the past year, but it's like, look, if I said yes to trying to grow my planner business, I'll be saying no to my planner by default or my new book by default. So it's like, I'm going to have to clear my schedule, say no to all these things so that I can say yes to something that I think will completely bring my business to another level. We'll see what actually ends up happening. Might have been a terrible choice, but that was at least the thought process of it.
Well, I love that it was an intentional choice and an intentional thought process. And I've often thought about, I can achieve 80% of whatever I want, and then I'm just as good as anyone else. But if I can put that energy and effort onto delivering at 100%, then I can be like no one else. And, I don't know if that's Tony Robbins or John Maxwell or whoever it is. Like, it sounds like we read a lot of the same stuff, but it is that ability to say no. And it's hard. Like, I don't know about you, but I find saying no to be incredibly difficult, which is why when I work with leaders or work with leadership teams, I teach and talk about it's so important to decide in advance, because the no's easy if you've already decided in advance what's most important. But if you haven't made that decision, you just get captured by someone else's priority, by someone else's stuff. And they're all good things. Like I'm guessing you had to say no to a lot of really good things this year.
When I'm saying no to them, it's like I've got a wife and kids. My wife doesn't work. Well, our kids are a ton of work, so she works harder than I do.
Yeah, we're going to cut that part out of this episode.
Yeah, she works much harder than I do, but I'm the sole provider for our family. So it's like when I'm saying no to these things, it's like sometimes that is tough. It's like, well, how much am I going to bank on this book? And I think that was kind of going back to those mountains, like you don't know what's on the other side. I've been buying these rental properties, and it was just something I wanted to do. It was fun. It was another business. But if I hadn't said yes to that, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to say, look, I'm going to take a year off my normal earning avenue so that I can write this book. It was like, okay, we're in a position where we can. And that really, this book was on the backside of those rental properties, because otherwise it wouldn't have been an option for me to stop all the things I was doing with Goal Crazy.
So as we go through life, we get to these valleys, right? We climb the peak and we come down and we get better. And I love that metaphor and have a similar philosophy. If you're whatever number of peaks that you've climbed now, if you were to package up the lessons you've learned over the last 6 years, and you could go back and give 6 year ago self who's just getting ready to start Goal Crazy, who's just getting ready to bring this to market, and you could give yourself one salient piece of advice or insight that would have made a marked difference, that you had to learn it the hard way or you had to learn it through the climb, what would that piece of advice or what would that tool be?
You got to keep dreaming. It's like, for me, if you don't have dreams, you can't have meaningful goals. Like you can have goals without dreams, but they're not going to be aiming at anything bigger than themselves. And if you don't have meaningful goals, you end up in this survival mode, is what I call it. And there was lots of times where I did that, where maybe it was like right after I launched my planner, it was like, check, launch my planner. And then I'm just running this business, but I stopped dreaming about what was next. And then I end up in survival mode where I'm just trying to survive with this business. And it's like, once I started dreaming again, it gave me the next peak that I'm going to focus on. And I would say if I'm not dreaming, then I start working on these other things that maybe they make money or are helping the business, but I don't enjoy them. And then it's like, I have this business to do what I love and I'm not even doing what I love anymore. So I feel like just continuing to dream, it feeds the fire, gives me purpose for my actions. I constantly remind myself, this is what growth feels like. Like it is hard. You know, if you want to live a great life or do something epic, like you have to do challenging things, right? No one does something epic for doing what's easy, right? It's like, no, they did what was hard. They did what was uncomfortable, right? And it's like when these challenges are arriving, they're not the enemy of my success. That's a requirement. And I'm constantly reminding myself of that. This is what growth feels like. And it's been hard, but it's also been really fun over these years.
You know, that is such a powerful statement. This is what growth feels like. Like everybody wants to look like the athlete, but the athlete it hurts when you're in the gym. Like nobody is enjoying, maybe there are some of us that enjoy, but it hurts, right? You know, but this is what growth feels like. One of my favorite books of, it's a couple of years ago now, but The Comfort Crisis, by Michael Easter, when he talks about doing the misogi, doing the really, really hard thing. And I liked it so much because it was like the rules of misogi were, do something that's so incredibly hard that you only have a 50% chance of success. Like it's hard. Yeah. And, it's kind of rule number one. Rule number two, you don't die. You can't kill you, right? It's like, maybe that should be rule number one. And then rule number three is you don't tell anybody because it's not about what you're doing. It's not your social media thing. It is, I am doing this to prove to myself I can do a hard thing. And through that crucible of doing something hard, where I know I only have a 50% chance of success, I learn about myself. I learn what I can do. I learn that discomfort is where growth happens. And so when you share that, like, this is what growth feels like, that's what I'm hearing in my head. Like, this is what growth feels like. This is where, when I get uncomfortable, I have the opportunity to be more than I am. And I love that. Like, that's super cool that's one of the takeaways that you've had.
Yeah. Yeah. And my old self would just need to calm down. This isn't a problem. It's just, this is what entrepreneurship looks like. It's challenging.
It is. Well, your dad had 20 groups and, the people around. How do you go about curating a mentor network or a group where, you can sharpen, iron can sharpen iron, you can sharpen against and learn from other people? What's been your process of curating mentors over your time as an entrepreneur to make sure that, leadership is lonely, number one, but entrepreneurship, especially when you are, it's not a big business with a lot of people, it can be extremely lonely. How have you gone about that? So
one of my mentors, when I was first getting started, he kind of like yelled at me. He was this bold guy, but he was like, Jason, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? So if you want to start a business, the easiest way to do it is find someone who's already started that business and just ask them how they did it. There's your straight line. I've made that, like, that's the first step when I set my goal, going back to like the breakthrough goal. It's like, I need to find somebody who's already done it. And I will cold call, like for my real estate, I'll cold call property owners, I'll cold call, email, reach out to them. Now I have the luxury of a podcast where it's like, I can serve them by having them on my podcast, but it's really like, nope, you've done what I want to do. I'm going to ask you how I did it. And that's been really, really helpful. I've joined a handful of different online masterminds, some online, some in person. And I feel like just now I'm finally finding one that I really align with the people. It was kind of like, there wasn't one of planner store owners. There was ones of coaches, but they didn't have a planner. And I feel like their exact strategies weren't applicable to somebody who had a physical product they were selling at the top of funnel. And there was all these different communities for like an online store. But I feel like with my book, I finally realized like the author business model is what I've been doing with my planner for years. And now I can finally connect with these authors and figure out like, how are you guys doing this? Because I've done a lot of zigzagging rather than getting the straight line. Still making progress, that's been really helpful. Real estate's been pretty straightforward. There's great mastermind. So I just have to seek them out. And I feel like I do that in two categories, like the mastermind, I want the peers to learn from. And I also want the person who's already done it. And lots of times that comes from cold calling, connections through friends and family. I'll look for businesses for sale. And I'll tell them, like, look, I'm going to be transparent here. I'm deciding if I want to start something like this on my own or buy something that's already made. But it gives me the opportunity to sit down with a business owner and ask them a bunch of questions. And I mean, some of those, like, I have bought in things. But sometimes I'm just learning from them, and I've been upfront from the start. And it's like, nope, I learned what they're doing, and I don't want to buy their business. This isn't as hard as I thought. Hopefully that's not like an unethical practice, but like even my apartments. It's like I'm meeting with these other landlords who are selling apartment complexes, and it's I learn a ton from them. And I looked at a ton of different deals before I finally bought one, but lots of the progress was meeting with those guys and learning how they did it so I could recognize the good deal when it was in front of me.
Yeah, I don't think that's unethical at all. I think it is the process of discovery. Anybody I've worked with over the years has heard me say, R&D stands for rip off and duplicate. It's like, go ask a lot of questions, learn from experts, learn from others, be upfront, say, hey, look, I'm trying to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And, what are the questions I should be asking? What are the things and I've found that if you show up in an authentic manner, just, completely vulnerable, completely candid, most of the time people respect that. And if they don't, that's okay. They're not my people anyway, right? But it's like just showing up and learning. That's so powerful. Who would you say have been your top 3 mentors in your life?
Through different phases. My dad is at the top of the list. Talked to him about a lot of stuff. When I was first starting my business, there was a guy named Jim Shorkey. He has a podcast. He's a coach. He's a car dealer. They have like 30 dealerships or something crazy, but he's retired now. So his family friend who was mentoring me. Right now, I'm working with Chandler Bolt. He's got a coaching program for writing a book, Xander Fryer. So I would say like some personal connections, but then other people that I tracked down and found online. And normally if I'm going to try and find somebody, I do like if they've written a book. It's kind of like if I buy their book and I really like it, I'm going to look to see if they have the next step I can take and work with them in a group or a one-on-one sort of setting if I've already established I really like their philosophies.
Let me ask you something. Are you leading off of instinct? You've got the vision, you've built the thing, but most leaders I talk to are still flying without a system. Vision to Victory, the mastermind, changes that. It's a 12-week experience where we install the leadership operating system you've always needed: purpose, strategy, cadence, metrics, execution. This isn't a course. It's not more content. It's a small group of leaders who are done chasing clarity and ready to lead with it. You'll walk out with a full leadership operating system, a trusted circle of peers, and a repeatable way to scale without losing yourself along the way. There are only 12 seats in this group, and most are already spoken for. It's an application-only process. Go to arcusgroup.com/mastermind to apply. My question is, what's a book that every leader should read? And I'll just say, you can come up with a couple if you want. What are some books that you believe that every leader, or maybe in this case, every entrepreneur should read?
One of the most formative books I read, it was called The Magic of Thinking Big. I should even know who it's by. It's on my shelf over there. The Magic of Thinking Big. It was one of the first self-help books I read, and it was like a game changer for my life. So maybe it was just right time, right place, but I feel like he tackled a lot of good things. To be honest, leadership, I've got me. I have one part-time employee and a handful of freelancers. I haven't probably read enough leadership books. It's not really my strength yet. Hopefully that'll come later. I feel like that's been a really good book for me. The One Thing was a really good book. Traction, that was a really good book for me. Those are a couple that come to mind. But I've got a giant shelf of books in my office. I'm sure just like you, I'm listening to things, reading things on my Kindle.
It's constant. Yeah. And, it's so interesting. Like whether you lead and influence a large team or you lead and influence one person, John Maxwell, his famous quote is, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so, I'm always interested in people who are leading when they realize that the first person they have to lead is themselves. And like the goal, your planner process, like that's self-leadership. So Yeah, I view these things like The Magic of Thinking Big or The One Thing. Those are leadership books because you got to lead yourself first. That's how you have the opportunity, earn the right to lead and influence others. So I view those very solidly in the leadership camp for what it's worth.
Thanks. It's a good perspective.
What's a lesson you just had to learn the hard way? Like you can say now, gosh, I wish I hadn't learned that the hard way, but what is a lesson, life lesson, growth lesson, something like that you had to learn the hard way?
I learned it up front and I just ignored it. Was when I was starting to sell my planners, it's like, this can help everybody, right? And every mentor I told me was like, nope, don't do that. If you're going to try and market to everybody, you're going to market to nobody. That took me years, even though it was like most of the people were somewhat entrepreneurial, whether they had their own business or more of entrepreneurship. They were entrepreneurial people, but it took me a long time to decide this is the market that I want to serve. And it made everything else for me easier. And then luckily, I feel like I learned this when I was still at the dealership, but you got to ask people for help. Especially when I was first starting there at the dealership, I wanted to prove that I was VanDevere, I knew it all. And I got slapped in the face with that pretty hard. Like, nope, it's not what's going to work. You know nothing. You need to ask everybody for help who's smarter than you. Those are some things that come to mind.
That's awesome. And, for your planner, like you had to learn, it's not for everybody. Who is your ideal client now? I'm assuming it's the entrepreneur, but like, let me not assume that. Articulate who is it that will best benefit from or receive value from the unique way you have built Goal Crazy Planners.
Yeah. So I think it's somebody who wants to start a business and isn't 100% sure on what type of business they want to start, or somebody who has a business, but they're not 100% sure on which way they want to take it. But they're looking on, I want to grow this business or I'm trying to start it, but they need to find the clarity on which direction to take it, because the planner starts with that really thorough, I call my life crash course, that helps them answer the question, what do you want to do with your life? Right? And once you can answer that question, then you can build the business to be the means to create that. It'll be the vehicle to make that dream lifestyle you want. But if somebody already has complete clarity on the direction they're going, then they could probably find a planner that doesn't have as many written exercises as mine. But if they're looking for clarity, it'll nail it down for them.
That's awesome. Well, that's one of the reasons I included it in our Vision to Victory package, because I think that the more time you invest in getting clear, the easier everything else comes later. Like one of my favorite sayings is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's the ability to take that and do those exercises and do the process that allows you to move faster later. I really want to dig deeper on, well, we're talking about this, dream driven.
Yeah.
It took a year. You've written this book. Was it harder than you expected? Was it easier than you thought it would be? What has that journey been like?
So one of the best things I did was I hired a coach to help me with this, because otherwise it would have taken me 10 years. And the hardest part of the process was coming up with the outline for it. For me, my personality type is like, let's design the cover and pre-sell it, and I'll figure the rest out later. And thank goodness I had this coach like, Jason, that's a terrible idea. And they wanted me to make a really thorough outline. But that made everything else easier. It might have taken me like a month and a half to make an outline, but I wrote my rough draft. So then I've cut out over a third of the book, but it might have been like a 350 page book. I wrote it in 2 weeks, just like punch it out. And I don't feel like I was working very hard to do it. But once I had the outline, it was like all these things I've explained hundreds of times, probably like you, like with your clients or your workshops or things you're leading or your podcasts, like you've said these things again and again. So it's figuring out like, what's the order I'm going to put this in? What's the framework? And then it was a matter of like, I've said this a bunch of times, just put it in paper. The editing process was not terrible. It was really hard. It was just time consuming. I think I thought I would write a book, have a draft, the editors would then make it great, and then I could sell it. But now they give you feedback and you got to change it. And that was it was a time consuming process. It was hard.
Yeah, I have to imagine, having not written a book yet, can emphasis on yet, but having not written one yet, like when you're writing and creating, you can measure your outputs, right? But when you're going back and editing, these are hours agonizing over like what seem to be small details, but it's that small detail that takes it from being an 80% quality to 100% quality. So while it may feel non-value added, I'm guessing it's probably the part that will make it go from good to being great.
Yeah, it made it so much better. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Who should read your book?
Somebody who wants to start a business and isn't sure what type of business that they want to start. It'll help them. It's got lots of the principles that come straight from my planner. It's going to help them figure out what type of business or what type of life do you want to create. I always tell people the business should be the means, not the end. It should be the means, not the end. And what I mean by that is you need to design the lifestyle that you want. That's the end. And once you have that, then you can create the business that'll be the means to create it. But if you do it the other way around, and this is what I fell into when I first started my planner business, is the business was the end. And I succeeded in that. It was my entire life. It overtook it all. And it wasn't until I realized no, I need to clarify what was the lifestyle that I originally wanted when I wanted to start this business. And then I had to reform it to fit into that. So help them figure out what they want to do with their life, create a business idea that align with it, help them validate it's a winner before they spend a bunch of time and money on it, and then how to launch it.
It's pretty practical. And to go from vision all the way down into like bringing something to life, it's really applicable. I have to ask, what is your dream? What is it that once you figured out the business wasn't the end, but was the means, what is it that motivates you and is the dream for your life?
So I feel like what lights a fire inside of me right now is talking and working with entrepreneurs. When people would reach out on one of my help setting goals around starting their business, it was like, look, I'm not an expert, but I'm going to share with you anything I've learned. Most of it was terrible things, so avoid these. But it was it was so exciting. So right now I want to help entrepreneurs take the same leap of faith I did. Because I know most people probably aren't leaving a family dealership, but most people, they're probably pretty comfortable in a position somewhere. And it's frightening to turn down something good to go after something that could potentially maybe be great. But it was so freeing for me. I would love to help give somebody the confidence to take that leap forward and go after what they really want.
That's amazing. Jason, how old are your kids?
So you're going to think we're crazy here. We have a 3-year-old.
You put crazy in the name of your business, man. I don't think you can get any crazier than that.
Yeah, well, I guess that's established already. So we have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 8-month-old. And God willing, we hope to keep having more. I would say one of my biggest dreams ever since I was a tiny little kid is I want to have a giant family. 12-passenger van is my dream vehicle. We'll see. We're starting pretty ambitiously with 3 kids. We had 3 kids under 3 for a while, but we love them.
I need to introduce you to my good friend, John Blair, who also has 3, and I think his are 3 under 4. And, he vacillates from extreme joy and extreme tiredness. And I don't have 3 under the age of 3, so I can't even begin to imagine. I have one right now who's 8, and that's a lot of energy. That's just a lot of energy.
It's fun. We're going back to this is what growth feels like is they're forcing me to get rid of a lot of bad habits. I didn't realize how selfish I was until you have 3 kids, and it's a painful growth process, but it's all the same.
Yeah, wait till they spit out and use some words against you that you've been using against them, and you're just like, son of a gun, I know where they're getting that from.
Yeah.
1 or 2 last questions here. What's an entrepreneurial myth that you would love to debunk?
Maybe, I don't know if myth is the right word. With my dream-driven book, my perspective is I want you to find what you really want to do with your life. I think lots of entrepreneurs that I've talked with or worked with, they start out figuring out what's going to be the easiest opportunity to earn money. I call it the easy money approach. And there have been some people that have done very well with that. But I feel like at least the people that I've talked to who started a business with that approach of where's the easy money, starting a business is hard. In my opinion, there's no way around it. And if you don't have a fire inside of you that says, I want to do this is what I want to do with my life, you're going to give up when it's hard. And I think just much better approach is figure out what you want to do with your life. Similar to you, I've got this podcast. I've had people on the podcast who've started the most random of businesses ever and grown them into 6, 7, 8 giant businesses. It's rather than scouring the market for the perfect product to sell, I want you to scour your heart to find what do I really want to do with my life? And then make your business aim to that.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how, one of the things I work with leaders on, they often, at first they don't get it. It's the first thing we need to do is we need to articulate your deep burning purpose beyond making money. What is it you're going to do? Because the time's going to pass. We have to provide for our families. We have to do all those things. Those are transactions. What I want to know is what is your burning purpose beyond making money? Because once we establish that, we can figure everything else out. So we share that belief and that dream. So when is the book coming out? When's it public? Like I've
September
ordered
9th.
a copy, but
Yeah, September 9th. Yeah.
9/9. We will make sure that we put a link in the show notes, and I'm really excited. I literally have it on my reading table. There's one book ahead of it in the queue, and then I'm going to be digging into it. Jason, what's a cause or an organization that you are deeply passionate about supporting?
Two that we support. One is Heifer International. I don't know if you've heard of them. Like you donate and you buy animals, and the animals are given to people. So it's not a one-time donation. It's like, we're going to give you a cow, and then they can get milk and food and should live longer than just a one-time donation. One that I've been passionate about, it's called Catholic Relief Services. But another way my dad just invested into us as kids is we went on, maybe it was kind of like a mission trip thing with Catholic Relief Services to Honduras to see how they were serving these poor people. And it made an impact on me. I feel like I was very sold on the organization was very thrifty with their money, so they could get as much as they could to these people and give them long-term solutions rather than just like, giving people food is important, but it's like, how can you get them self-sustaining? So those are two that my wife and I are passionate about.
That's amazing. We'll make sure we include links to both of those in the show notes. And, it's always so fascinating to me to understand where people spend their time, their treasure, where do they invest? So last question before we wrap up today. At the end of the day, at 4:45 p.m., when your alarm goes off and you shut down the workday, what has to have happened in order for it to be scored for you as a good day? What does it mean for you to have had a good day?
I dedicate the day before my number one goal for the day. So if I accomplish that, that helps. I call it a junk drawer. This is a kind of weird time block that I use, but all the little random tasks that they're not super high payoff, but they need done. I do this 40-minute time block right after lunch, set an alarm for 40 minutes and knock them out. And on a good day, I did those because it's easy for me to, there's other higher payoff things that I want to do. And it's like, oh, those can wait for tomorrow. Those can wait for tomorrow. But it's like, nope, did I do my number one goal? Did I do my junk drawer activities? Those are two of the big ones.
I love that. And the junk drawer is that thing can get full quick if you're not careful.
It can get full. Yeah. 40 minutes, knock it out. Most of the time it actually takes me less. I try and tap it off on like between 4 and 6. 6 most of the time is too many, but 4 is like realistic amount of things I can do in a junk drawer time block.
Awesome. Jason, how can our audience learn more about you, or how can they connect with you to discover what you're up to?
Yeah. So my website is goalcrazy.com. You can check out my planner, my book, my podcasts. If you go to Amazon, you can get my book. It's called Dream Driven. And if they're curious about, I have this life crash course. It's a goal setting course. It comes at the front of my planner. It's also going to be part of the foundation of this book that it's built on. But I'd be willing to give it to them for free if they go to goalcrazy.com/course. They can get that life crash course completely for free, so they can really help to answer the question, what do you want to do with your life? And break that all the way down from dreams to what's your most impactful goal for this quarter.
That's amazing. Well, I will make sure we put a link in the show notes for those who are trying to figure it out and want a good process to follow and make sure their dreams come true. I think you've got a corner on that market. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This has been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Jason. I look forward to talking to you again soon, and I cannot wait to dig into your book. I'll send you some feedback as soon as I get started.
Wonderful. Love it.
Awesome. If today's episode gave you something to think about, something to apply, then there's more where that came from. Head over to arcusgroup.com and sign up for our newsletter. It's where we share tools, insights, and our leadership frameworks to help you lead with more clarity, more alignment, and more impact. No fluff, just what helps you lead better. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time on Leadership Unlocked.